How are you? Happy, what's today, Wednesday? As you can see, you may not look, but this road behind me, many a time when I've had my surgery, you might have seen me in some videos before where I was walking on crutches. I walked that whole road all the way up to that hill and back as therapy for myself when I had ankle surgery last year. No, actually 2 years ago, 2 Septembers ago. And right now I'm actually taking a walk. I have my weight vest on, 16 pounds, and taking a walk and doing some videos. So how's that, right? Workout, lose weight, keep my health up, do a land video. Folks, my showrunner topic today is following my interview with my guest Errol Moore, who I interviewed on Monday. You guys may have listened to that one, heard a lot of talking points, and I want to follow up on some, things he commented on that I feel are true, maybe are true from his perspective, true from his walk of life, his age group, and where I may disagree with only because I'm at a different point in my life. Folks, today's live stream outside with Uncle Phil is being sponsored by everyhomelife.com. Every Home Life, where you can go and get home items for your, I gotta walk around this bush here, it blocks off my path, make sure I don't get killed. Every Home Life, where your housing needs, they have everything for you. If you have home items that you need, bookshelves, lights, furniture, things like that, go wake your wife or get some for your mom on Mother's Day. There is a link down in the description for 15% off. I believe it's everyhomelife.com/ancestrylands. How you doing? Where you can go get items for 15% off. Okay, let's get to it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, do you appreciate your labor of your works? What do I mean by that? When I say, do you appreciate the labor of your works? Sunday, I went out to Cheesecake Factory with my executive manager, Eric Kennedy, and we're having a discussion about, where the business is right now, things going wrong, things need to be improved. They're not wrong, but things that need to be improved upon when you're a business. We often look at our lives and we say, hey, this isn't right, that isn't right. Here's what could be going better. I'm not making as much money as I made before. And I had to take a kind of look at my journey, how hard you've worked to get to where you are. And Eric asked me a question. He said, hey, sometimes you got to stop and smell the roses to see how much you've accomplished. And, I had to tell him, I had to think about it and see whether I do that. And I do, because when I started land investing, there was no company budget. I did not have a company credit card. I did not have a business line of credit. I did not have a DUNS number. I didn't have equity that I was building up. I didn't even have a net worth that was purely based upon my land business alone. Right now, a lot of people have net worths that are based upon their income in life because of their salary through their 9 to 5. But when you get into land investing like I have, and you do it right, when I say do it right, doesn't mean just buying a property, being able to be able to get business credit, a credit card, have money in the bank, actually have accounts where you can get approved for $50,000 credit limit on a credit card and another $25K on business line of credit, get a DUNS number and start actually building your business entity. And that's where this kind of video comes from, that standpoint of, are you building a real business, something that is long-term, that has longevity? And again, do you stop to appreciate those accomplishments as they come? Even with I remember, sorry, it's it's about to be school drop-off here. It's 3 o'clock on the East Coast, so, high school, middle school will be let now very quickly. So a lot of times when I say what I say, and what I mean by that is that in my conversation with Errol, It's, you're a nursing student. I'm so happy to have got my degree. Do we ever take a moment when we get that degree to stop and think about how many times we've almost failed, how many times we've overcome and achieved things in that struggle to obtain that measure of success, that thing that we define as we accomplished this, we got the job. Well, when you're a nursing student, you get a job. You didn't get a job just because you're licensed. You got a job because you've proven that you've made it through all the things that qualify you to become a practicing nurse. Nursing school is very intense. There's a lot of critical thinking, a lot of testing that you have to do, and it's stressful. It's mentally draining. It takes a lot to be able to pass nursing. Even when you get the college degree, you still have to become licensed according to the state, which is another test. So a lot of times you're getting a job because you've made it where others might have failed. Now, folks, I'm gonna take a second right here and stop. Remember, in a video I've done about investing with multifamily, you might see in this video now, right behind this apartment complex in one of the better neighborhoods, these townhomes right here were being built. They were just being newly constructed on. I think they were going for about 1.5 in my previous video that I've done, and now I think they're going for 1.2. And I can see up here, if you look, they got right here in the sign that 6 are already sold out of all the units. So they have, looks like this is still maybe sold here. There's a sold one there, that's for sale. That one down there is sold on that end. I'm gonna come on this side. They're really nice too as well. Okay, 4 is, okay, so there. Okay, so I guess it's not 6 sold when I'm reading this now. It is 1. I see how they're numbering them right now. This is number 5, 3, 6. That one's sold. Number 4 is still unsold. Number 1 right here is sold, the one on the corner unit. So each driveway, they're home sites. So it looks like these 2 are still not, they're still for sale. That's sold, that's sold, that's sold. This might be the show one right there. And you know, just to goes to show that I do live in a very expensive area. You know, I've never claimed to be a homeowner. I'm a landowner. I do rent currently, and I'm looking to purchase a home. But again, a lot of times people don't give you the ins and outs of home buying. A lot of people just, oh, we get approved for a loan, go in. There's a lot that goes into buying a home. Having 3 children, having a family. And I remember a conversation my wife and I got into about just like growing financially. And it also piggybacks the conversation I had with my dad. You know, I'm 42, and a lot of times people just, and this is a helpful message for anybody out there, a lot of people don't get started going and becoming successful at 22 when they graduate college, just because you get a nursing degree or a degree at all. Sometimes some people start later in life where their opportunities did not come to them at the same time that other people may have had opportunities present to be successful. Some people start off and have family that helps them, parents that give them financial starts, much like presidents and people who are wealthy. And some people got to really get it out the mud. But a lot of times you can become discouraged with people who simply think you should be at a point of success. Like, the points of success come at every age one. You know, for me, I traveled a lot in my 20s. I worked in Arizona, I worked in California. So buying a home for me at that time wasn't something I could do because I wasn't stationary in my life. It wasn't until I met my wife and had a family that I actually started to kind of look towards settling down. When I started having children, I really wasn't settled down in California because I know I wanted to come back east. So outside of the pandemic, I think I'm a little bit more settled because it kind of, when you want to move somewhere and you want to buy a home and live there, you want to feel like you want to feel like almost the place is your home. And it's taken about 4 years for me to feel like this is an area we really want to live at. You know, my kids are going to school here, they're building friends. You start kind of getting into the neighborhoods, being involved in the community, and that's when you really want to settle in. But I'm 42. May not own a home. I got 100 pieces of property that I make as income, not a liability. So going back to the part of appreciating your labor, a lot of people out there, you're looking at what the next person has as a measure of your own success. And I think that's kind of the wrong mindset to look at, because you got to look at, what are you doing to forward your life? What are you doing to push the needle forward? How hard are you working to accomplishing a certain outcome for yourself? And when you do accomplish that, if you're an achiever or overachiever in life, do you stop and think and say, hey, I'm doing a good job? I always know that in life we have many people who are naysayers, who tell us all the time when we are or not doing something right. Lord knows we have no short list of people who are always willing to give us criticisms on what we could do better. Hey, how my podcast could run better. My wife even earlier, you know what you should talk about? I'm like, yeah, got it. But I talk about things that matter to me. I talk about things that I don't always know about before I talk about them, before I did some research. And some of the things may be already in place. They may already exist in society, but that doesn't mean that everyone is educated on what's happening now, even though another person may have experience in knowing it. I don't assume that just because I know, my audience knows. That's why I always say, I hope you've been educated, entertained, and enlightened. Because if you already know it, then sometimes it might be good hearing it from another person's perspective. And if sometimes you're more mature and you're listening to how a person such as myself at 42 can try to convey that to audiences which are 20 years old. I do have audiences in their 20s, but I'm not audacious enough to assume that everybody just knows that now it's happening. The part of having and building a following is being able to talk to your listeners about information that's coming in. And people in their day-to-day sometimes can be so absorbed that they don't have time, or they may not know certain things that are coming. So this channel is set up to somehow inform people of things that they may not know, enlighten people on things or details that they might have missed on current events. And for people who might be more wiser, can add value in the comment section to talk about maybe a little bit more in detail on things that I'm going to highlight over. And that's the purpose of this channel. That's the purpose how I've evolved past selling land to having 60,000 subscribers and being able to support my family. And where I'm going to connect that, it's a lot of wind. Folks, I love this right here. You know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to go by here because I always walk past here, but I don't ever show people what we go to. So then you guys get a little extra here. I'm not going to go in there. So you see here, folks, how are you? This is the horse fair here that we have, the Chester County Horse Fair. How are you? Just showing my followers the horse fair where they do all the stuff here. Have a good day. So you talk about not just having $1 million listings. This is a little bit of where I do expose my children's culture. A lot of, when my interview with the millennial, with talking with Mr. Cynic, we talk about the affluence, being in affluent areas. And this is where they do the equestrian Olympic trials for the Olympics here in this area. the horses. They have all the horse stalls right here. And my kids and us, every year we go to this horse fair down the street from where we live, and they do all of the qualifiers for, the horse trotting, and they do all the jumps and things like that. Growing up, I'd never experienced this. I didn't grow up like my kids are growing up, experiencing that kind of environment. So yeah, while I don't own a home, I give my kids culture in proximity of where they live at. If you see, I live in a mostly residential area with $1 million listing homes, but sometimes the best investment I have is putting myself in an area where my kids will have the cultural experience. Where, I mean, we can afford where we live. We don't rent because we can't afford a home. It's just homes are super expensive right now, and it's very hard to get into a home while staying in an area like this. I got to pay $1 million. I'm not a millionaire yet, but again, where Errol, I'm going to disagree in some points is that I'm going to agree and disagree. And if you guys don't know, that video was on Monday. Today's what, the 18th. So that was on the 16th, 2 days ago. Monday, April 16th, that video came out. And it was about the corporate jobs keeping us behind. But where I'm going to disagree and agree with them is that, yeah, a lot of people do strive for mediocre. Getting a job, having a degree, working, going and paying my bills, and just existing, not really having any purpose. Where I disagree is where, and again, when I say this, and I mean that, I disagree, I agree with them, is that a lot of times people don't do anything more than just the basic part in life. I do agree with them that you got a lot of people who are living to work. That's all they do, is their job is their identity. There's no more they do outside of life other than work and pay for things. They may upgrade their house, but literally their life's spent at their work, and their life revolves around their work, their job. For other people like Errol, I see his life, work is a part of his life. He's works to live, but he's not living to work. There's a difference. And he's divested himself outside of his 9-to-5 income, and he's traveling, he's doing things to expand his horizon in his environment to show, hey, I'm benefiting from the labor of my work. The labor of my work is being able to maybe not own a home. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's a measure. But like I told my father, was that when my third child was born, I spent 5 months not working, being off, being home, being able to take care of my child, help my wife out, who had her third C-section. My wife didn't work also. She's a personal trainer. So she has to go to work in order to get that income. She can't do it. She doesn't have any PTO, things like that we can live off of. We pay for our health care and our rent, and I was able to do that for 5 months off my land income. And that's financially being able to take care of that, along with the medical bills we have from the baby being born X, Y, Z. So there's a measure of wealth in that. The money being able to do that the year before my son was born. Don't forget, I had ankle surgery where I was out for another 5 months. And same thing, didn't have income coming in from my 9-to-5, but I was able to live off. Hey, how are you? It's a guy who goes to my gym. And walking by, see, I got a hat on doing an Ancestrylands video. People see me out here, folks, What's really great is that, and I'll explain to people how that works when I talk about the business labor of your work, is that when you're doing what you're doing like that, being able to support your family, kids, live in $1 million area where I live at, and not be a millionaire, but being able to support myself, being able to be financially free enough to be home with my son, my children, take them to school, and not have to sweat, I need to work in order to live because I have land income. I told Eric, which I'm going back to the beginning, at our, we have an executive meeting where we go out, have a business dinner once a month, hopefully twice sometimes. And when he asked me that, I explained to him that going to the Cheesecake Factory with him, having that executive dinner, is a culmination of me building a business by which we could be here in this moment in time. His dinner with me, although we talk business, is a celebration of what I've been able to work up to right now. It may not look like it, but being able to do that, be off, raise a family, live in an expensive area, and have executive dinners while still having people who work for me and pay them too. I don't, that's not mediocre to me. That's where I disagree, because the optics of just having a family and doing that, every person's user experience is different. And I'm not saying Errol even was suggesting that, but what I'm just saying is that sometimes in life we get bogged down on what we don't have, what we want in order to make what we feel is complete at the time, and really it doesn't. And it comes from not appreciating what we've worked on to get as far as we've gotten. You know, in my case, okay, so when I get the house, then what? Now I have what everybody else has. Now I made it, correct? Probably not. What's going to happen, like everyone else, I'm going to want to upgrade the house. I'm going to want to do this. I'm going to want to do that. And the house isn't right until this. And maybe I need another house now. Maybe I need 4 rentals. You know, maybe from 4, I get 4 rentals and now I need 8 rentals. So again, a lot of times, let me try to cross the street. Okay, thank you. You know, sometimes being like, you gotta have a camera on to make sure people don't run you over, because they know their license plate is gonna be filmed, but I just kid. But, you know, again, being in an area like this, even though I don't have, but look what's in front of me. Look at the homes in front of me that I have visuals to aspire to. It's not, you know, there's a Lamborghini, Maserati, Ferrari places right around the street. So what I'm striving for is aiming for is what my dad calls space. Remember, we said we don't shoot for the stars or the clouds, we shoot for space. This is my space I shoot for. I walk past these places and saying, okay, I'm in a neighborhood where I rent. Okay, this is the neighborhood which I rented. Okay, how do I get to own a home in the place that I rented? How can I use my land business to grow it to have a house like this and walk outside and say, hey, this is my labor, my body of work that has proved that I built a land business up to being able to be financially free and independent. Because I guarantee you folks, a 9 to 5 is going to mean that you're paying this house off and you may be able to do upgrades, you may be able to do this, but your only investment is in your house. My investment is in my children and their education. So I told Eric, I am stopping and smelling my roses, my achievement. I look at real estate being down in sales, but being able to still generate $10,000 a month in my land business, that's a heck of an accomplishment that I am so thankful that I built on the front end, that I now can be able to appreciate it when tough times hit. And that's what I always talk about, building a business. Because if your business, you have to build it to the point where you can make money, not while you're working, while you sleep. A lot of times I wake up and a payment's been sent on a property. I'm not longer actively working for that lot. That lot is paying me back days and days after it's under contract being sold on a note. So when you own a business, people buying your products online, you're sleeping and making money. When you go to work, and let's say you're a doctor, you go to work, you make $500,000. But if you no longer are working as a doctor, say you get in a car accident and you get injured, well, if you're no longer working, you can't make $500,000 as a doctor. This is why business is so important. So you might be making a lot of money now, but the moment you're injured, have to be off, or you can't work in your career anymore, you no longer can maintain your lifestyle at the same velocity that you were once upon a time when you were working in it. And that's why I always say having a business, making money while you sleep, is the truest way to freeing yourself from the 9 to 5ism. A lot of times when you're building a business, it's extremely hard because you have to step by step build out a process, build out systems, build out workflows, and put a team around you that can perform the extra tasks or the things that you need done in your business to make it successful. Hey, how you guys doing? Look, I tell you, man, I love it. And look at all the homes we're walking past. I mean, these are really nice homes. And I don't think all of these homes right now, I don't care, down market, whatever else, they're going to retain their value. So these homes probably sell for 800,000-900,000, on average 700,000. A lot of homes in these areas, in this area in Pennsylvania, are older homes. In the Villanova area where I live at, I live down the street from Villanova University. They don't always have central heat. They're older homes built in the 1900s. They might have central air, but a lot of times they may have baseboard heating or wall heaters. They're older homes. So, you can see sometimes the homes need new roofs being done, things like that. But there's a lot of wildlife in the yard. I see deer almost all the time out here, white-tailed deer. So, and we're about 30 minutes away from Philadelphia, and you still will see deer. The horse fair is down the street. But again, my point in saying that is that you got to sometimes appreciate where things are in life, what you've accomplished in life, and not look at life and say, well, I don't have this, I don't have that. That's always going to be there. But again, you have to appreciate what you've worked and accomplished. And a lot of people don't do that. And I'm telling people is that look at what you have done, not what you don't have. Look at the things you've worked on to improve yourself. And yes, there's always going to be more that you can work on to get better. Yeah, that's always going to be there. Stop listening to people who always tell you that you're not good enough, or maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. And realize that, ask them, well, what have I worked on that you can see is better? Because a lot of times people don't want to give you credit for what you've been able to do. They always tell you what's always missing. You can always find people that will tell you where a hole is, rather than people who will tell you, they can tell you filled the hole in. You fix this problem. But a lot of times people will only focus their energy on what's broken, what needs to be fixed. And I'm saying that you within yourself have to always make sure you celebrate your achievements. Make sure you celebrate the things that you have worked on. You might be a person that's depressed. You might be a person that, at one point you didn't have any money saved. You had credit card debt. You paid your credit card off. Okay, good. Well, you start there. Don't let anybody make you feel like you're less than because you haven't achieved enough. Small victories equal a win in a war over time. And small victories can culminate to something even greater. And you got to be able to understand and value yourself in that aspect. So that's the biggest takeaway I can say. And I hope you all get a little bit from this talking points that I'm saying, because those things matter. When I look at Errol being 10 years younger, he's my age when I started having children. And I love his motivation. I love that Errol is very much trying to work to improve, and he's setting goals and he's making achievements. Those things are very, very important in life. But again, it can't be based off the next person and what they've done. A lot of time in our world, we view things through the eye set of our success is measured by another person's success. That's not how you measure success. It's where you were and where you are. If you have achieved nothing but the same thing, then you should look at setting your goal to go further. If you save $20 and you're 20 years old, okay, fine. Don't let anybody tell you that that's not a lot of money to save. Next month, save 25. You need people in your lives that are going to be enhancers, people that add value to you, that can take where you start and say, hey, move a little bit further, push the needle. If you want critics, great. I'm sure you're going to have family for that. Lord knows, family's always there to tell you what you haven't done. But again, find people who can look to Good job. Hey, can we set a goal for more bucks? Hey, if you don't walk every day, how about you walk 6 days? You walked 4 days this week. How about you walk 5 days? Okay. Okay, well, you ate dessert and you're trying to diet. How about you eat half a portion next time? Set a goal to achieve and appreciate the fact of what you've done. And that's the problem. We live in a world where there's no appreciation for what we've accomplished. Yes, the country needs to evolve past where it is, but look how far we've come as a country. Yeah, there are things still wrong, and every day you got the news and everyone pointing it out. But what about the achievements, the things that we have done? And they don't put it on the news because what's missing, what's broken is always being sold to us. And I'm here to tell you on this channel, even having a sponsor, one sponsor, it's a growth. It's something I did not have last year on this channel, even when I had 50,000 subscribers. Now it's 60. And you have to still get excited for those small victories, folks. You got to do that in your life. And a lot of times I always tell you, the reason why you should have a mentor is someone that can appreciate your goals, your achievements, your outcomes, and most importantly, your journey. And the first person that has to appreciate that is you. You got to appreciate the journey you've been on. And you got to look at it in not what you don't have. You got to look at it in what you do have. I've had many of people who didn't watch my channel. Now they watch it. I've had people I go and work with. They're like, man, I'm seeing a lot more of your videos show up on my feed. And it makes me happy because I remember when I didn't know how to make a land video. I remember when it was one property. My father told me that a long time ago. I remember when you had one lot. Now you've got over 100. And it's not a point to gloat, but it's a point to be appreciative of how I've grown. And that's what life is. It's a journey of growth. You got to have it. And I'll tell you guys another one in my neighborhood. This is an area where I walk past. Tons of deer will be back there. Foxes too. It's wonderful when you walk in your neighborhoods and you can kind of see natural wildlife. It's very calming and peaceful. So in our next topic, next thing we'll talk about is, do you appreciate and enjoy your children? When I say that, I don't mean you enjoy your children as in, having kids. I'm talking about, do you enjoy the journey of being a parent? I saw an IG video, someone's talking about your kids paint on the walls, write on the walls, and as parents, what do we naturally do? We yell at them, right? We tend to correct our children. We tend to judge or criticize our children. And one thing about the video when I listened to, they said those fingerprints on those walls, when you're 80, you're gonna remember those fingerprints. That's the only thing you'll have of their childhood that's left. Our children will grow up to become adults who have children, and you have a child, but they're not a child. I told my father that the other night. I was talking to him. Sometimes we've had issues in my 20s, but I now at 42 am not the 22-year-old person. If you brought my 22-year-old self to my 42-year-old self, I may be talking to him and agreeing with my father and arguing with my 22-year-old self because I'm no longer 22. So again, I always have to tell my parents is that I'm your child, not a child, because I have children. But one thing I've learned is that as parents, try to gear your mindset towards understanding that the time you have with your children is very limited. I went to the ER emergency room last night because my son has been having allergies so bad that his skin is covered in hives. And it's like, we literally got home at 12 at night, seeing the doctor. He's got bad allergies, and I mean bad allergies, not, he's having an immune response. And even though I'm annoyed because it's late at night, it's 11 o'clock, we waited 3 hours until we got sit in the back to go actually see a doctor. There were other parents waiting there too, it wasn't just us. But while I'm there, this guy's going and getting the water, coming back, guzzling it. And you know, when you're a parent, you're annoyed. Kids get antsy. They get very how can I say, you know, they can't sit still. And instead of being annoyed at it, I just sat there and looked at him. He's just being a kid. Now I could be sit up, shut up, sit still. I could be that. But again, I'm going to remember the time I went to the ER and spent time with him sitting there. For him, there must be think about your kid. Your kid sitting there scared of what's going on, and their only comfort is the parent sitting right next to them. And because we're annoyed as adults that we are with our children, we've got to do this, I got work tomorrow, we're so annoyed at at the situation, we become irritable to our children. They start irritating us for just being a kid. And that's not being in the moment and understanding. And you know what? What's crazy is this. Watch this, folks. Here's what I'm talking about. So here I am. Look right here. Look right there. I'm going to try to zoom in a little bit more. You see that right there? Right here. That's a deer. Right behind me. See that? Right there, it's moving. I'm going to try to... Can you see it? Let me flip it around so you can see it a little bit better. Try to zoom in. I'm going to try to go towards it. This is a white-tailed deer. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to try to go towards it without. Look at that. Right in someone's backyard. Can you see it? It's right there in front, right between those trees. It's there, right there. That deer. I'm going to try not to go in someone's yard because people are, this is a gun state. You see right behind this tree, there's a white-tailed deer. See it just move? Look at that. And there's another one right behind that bush right there. See that bush right there? You might not be able to see it. See it move? Yep. There's another one right behind the bush. Ears just came up. It's moving behind there. So sometimes I take walks on this journey. My dad and I walk here quite a bit. See the deer, they're all in the back there. You'll see them, foxes, everything like that. It's so cool. Grow up in an area where you can walk and just see deer. But again, like I said, with your kids, you'll sit there and be annoyed. And you get older, man, and you only have those memories left. And like I said, my son's sitting there scared. He's just trying to be whatever, engaged. And he's being restless. And could be just annoyed and just snap on my kid. And sometimes it just helps me to stop and say, you know, he has comfort in knowing that his dad is here. You might say, well, where's mom? Mom's home with the other two kids. In our lives, you got to divide and conquer. She's messaging me, being worried. But even for my wife, there's a comfort in knowing I, as a nurse, got it when the kids go to the hospital. We're communicating and things like that. And again, our marriage isn't always great. Sometimes I like her, sometimes I don't, but I love her. My wife, sometimes she likes me. Probably more times she doesn't like me than she likes me. But when things come down, we understand that we're together and we're united as one. And with our kids, you got to remember, man, they look at us much differently than we look at them. We're going through life stressed and worried about with the world. But our kids, they look at us as their protectors, their buddy, their friend, their group, their team. You know, when I say friend, I don't mean like friend like peer, but someone that they feel comfortable around. And it's our job as parents to make sure that our kids feel comfortable with us, that we don't forget that they don't do things with intention. You ever see a kid do something, you're like, why did you do it? And the kid's like, I don't know. They have no idea. You might be looking at your kids like, this kid got a brain in his head. I don't know. Kids don't do things with intention. They don't think before they do stuff. They're silly, they're goofy. You could say a kid's brain isn't all there until much later, but remember that the kids don't do anything with the intention of, I'm going to do this to be wrong. I'm going to do this to be bad. That's not their base function. So with parents, You got to realize your relationship with your children is going to result in one day based upon their experiences with you. Do you enjoy time with your kids? My kids do softball, my son does baseball. I love the opportunity to help out, where I end up becoming a coach on their team, assistant coach. And the thing I love about it is that it gives me more time with them. It gives me more interactions with them, more of a chance to work with them on things that the coach will work on them to help out, and other kids too. That my kids have a sense of my dad helps out on the coach because their peers are, hey, her dad's also a coach on the team. And again, these are going to be the peers of my daughter and my sons. So I'm always telling people again, remember folks, enjoy your children. I understand that some people might be going through a divorce. Hell, I've met a lot of people who are going through divorce and have children, men and women who are kind of getting the bad end of the stick in a divorce. And I often see that their kids are suffering because of their suffering, and they don't take time out to enjoy their children. Because while you're going through a divorce, while you're going through a tough spot in your marriage, while you're going through health issues, your kids were brought in. They don't know you're the driver of the ship, and they're along for the ride, rocky or smooth. And the worst thing you can do with having people on your ship is to make everyone an enemy because you're not happy about the boat you're in. And that's what I'm talking about, appreciating the labor of your work. Some people, you're not going to be rich. A lot of people aren't. That's why there's always the 1%. I mean, I may not be that way too, but there's a lot of different measures other than just owning a home, owning land. I think the richest person is a person that can own parts of their time. But I want this to be an inspiration to people out there, because Lord knows, and I'm going to say it, you probably got more people in your family that say they love you, say they support you, and they really don't. Say they care about you, but they tell you about what they don't care about. People who aren't really there for you. They don't really care about where you're headed, what your priorities are, what matters to you. But you got to really understand that at the end of the day, you got to believe in you. Appreciate the work you've done. Appreciate how hard you've worked. You don't need to move a mountain in order to be successful. And you don't need to walk a mile in order to have achieved. What you got to do is be a step further than you were the day before. And that's achieving, folks. Any which way, I'm going to enjoy the rest of this day. Wednesday, my kid has a baseball game, which I'm coaching. And it's a beautiful thing, folks. Anyone who might be commenting, yes, my son is doing okay. He's doing a lot better. We kept him home from school. Thank you for everybody who has sent well wishes for him. Kids are resilient, man. They're not as fragile as we think they are. They actually can find joy in a time where they're really miserable. And that's one thing I love about children. They could be suffering from anything and still find a way to put a smile on their face. Adults, not so much. And this is coming from someone who worked in children's hospitals myself as a nurse. I've always loved that children, their innocence, boy, if you can just see it and hold on to it, man, it's a beautiful thing. And absorb it. As much as we like to absorb negative energy, absorb the innocence that a child has, and don't be afraid to embrace it. Any which way, folks, Phil Davis, Ancestrylands. Don't forget about our sponsors, everyhomelife.com. Links in the description below. Take care. I hope you've been educated, entertained, and enlightened. And if you haven't, watch something else, another video. We probably got something in the playlist for you folks. Phil Davis, Ancestrylands. Hey, don't forget, donate to the show. $sign Ancestrylands on Cash App, Ancestrylands on Venmo. Go buy some land, ancestrylands.com. Phil Davis signing out. Peace.